Today, we're diving into a story about a secret war of revenge, a war launched by a nation reeling from tragedy. It's all about a list of names, a global manhunt, and a state-sanctioned license to kill. We're talking about Operation Wrath of God, one of the most controversial counterterrorism campaigns ever, born from an event that absolutely shocked the world.
But our story starts somewhere you might not expect. Not with a bang, but with a book. So picture Rome in the early 1970s. There's a man named Wals Weider. And by all accounts, he's a man of culture. His partner, Janet Van Braun, described him as this passionate, literary translator, a well-known intellectual in his neighborhood who just loved poetry and music. And then, just like that life came to a brutal, violent end. One evening, as he was coming home, Zuider was shot 12 times in the lobby of his apartment building. The two men who did it, they just vanished into the night. The literary translator was now a murder victim.
Now, this murder in Rome, it wasn't some random act of violence, not at all. It was actually the first shot fired in a secret war. And it immediately brings up a huge question that gets right to the heart of this entire story.
And this is where the story just splits into two completely different realities. On one side, you have Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency. They were absolutely convinced that Zuider was the head of the terrorist group Black September in Italy. But then, on the other side, an official Italian court looked into it and later found zero evidence that he was involved in terrorism. In fact, they concluded he was trying to find a peaceful solution.
So which is it? Was he a man of peace caught in the crossfire, or a terrorist mastermind hiding in plain sight? You know, to really understand why a country would send assassins to kill a literary translator, we have to rewind the clock by about 6 weeks.
The answer, and really the justification for everything that came next, begins at a place that was supposed to be all about celebrating global unity, the Olympic Games.
The 1972 Munich Olympics were billed as the Games of Peace and Joy. While that dream was completely shattered when the Palestinian militant group Black September stormed the Israeli quarters. The whole crisis ended in a bloody, botched rescue attempt at a nearby airfield. By the next morning, the world woke up to the horrific news: 11 members of the Israeli Olympic team were dead.
This attack was broadcast to 1 billion people. It created this deep national trauma in Israel. And for Prime Minister Golda Meir and her government, a typical military strike just wasn't going to cut it. They believed the only way to send a clear message that this would not go unpunished was with a direct, personal, and very harsh response. And that response was given a name that pretty much tells you everything you need to know about its motive and its deadly intent.
Operation Wrath of God, sometimes called Operation Bayonet, was born. This was a covert, state-sanctioned campaign of targeted assassinations, and the mission was crystal clear: hunt down and eliminate every single person, anywhere in the world that Israel believed it played a role in planning or carrying out the Munich Massacre.
But this wasn't random, not at all. There was a secret, high-level system in place. First, Mossad agents would identify a potential target. Then, that person's file went to a top-secret group called Committee X. This committee included the Prime Minister and other top security officials. Only if they all agreed, and with the final sign-off from the Prime Minister herself, could an assassination move forward. And Wals Weider, he was the very first name on that list to be approved. But here's the thing about a secret war fought in the shadows, across who knows how many countries: it's incredibly messy. And when you're dealing with life and death intelligence, even one tiny mistake can lead to absolutely devastating and tragic consequences.
Mossad had a number one target, a man they nicknamed the Red Prince. His name was Ali Hassan Salameh, and they believed he was the chief of operations for Black September, the mastermind behind Munich. For months and months, they hunted him all over Europe.
And that hunt eventually led a Mossad team to, of all places, the quiet little town of Lillehammer, Norway. They were sure they had finally found Salameh. But they were wrong. Horribly, tragically wrong. The man they'd been following, the man they shot and killed right in front of his pregnant wife, was not Ali Hassan Salameh. His name was Ahmet Bouchiki. He was a Moroccan waiter with absolutely no connection to terrorism. The Lillehammer affair was a catastrophic failure. It blew the lid off the entire operation and even led to the arrest of several Mossad agents. So after all of this, after decades of this campaign, you have to ask, did it even work? Well, it's complicated. On one hand, supporters will tell you it definitely disrupted terrorist networks, kept their leaders paranoid and on the run, and it gave the Israeli public a real sense of justice, or maybe revenge. But on the other hand, critics argue it just provoked murderous retaliation, led to the deaths of innocent people like Ahmed Bouchiki, and drew condemnation from all over the world. Plus, it might have eliminated people who could have one day become partners in peace talks.
And this really gets us to the heart of the matter. These deep, unresolved ethical questions that are still hanging in the air, decades after this operation supposedly ended.
Over the course of about 20 years, we're talking about dozens of people who were killed. The exact number? It's still a state secret. But that count includes not just the intended targets, but also innocent bystanders and tragic cases of mistaken identity.
The legacy of Operation Wrath of God isn't some simple story of good guys versus bad guys. It forces us to ask these incredibly difficult questions. Is a secret assassination campaign a necessary tool against people who play by no rules? Or is it a blatant violation of international law? Did it actually stop terror? Or did it just pour gasoline on the fire of violence? And maybe the biggest question of all, can a nation be its own judge, jury, and executioner?
And at the end of the day, that's the question at the very center of this whole story. It's just as relevant today as it was in the streets of Rome and Lillehammer 50 years ago. Where exactly is the line between counterterrorism and state-sanctioned murder?